Captain Lee Tay was having another boring day, hauling mining equipment between Earth and the outer colonies. His cargo ship, Iron Dream, wasn't much to look at, but she was reliable. Tay had been flying these routes for 5 years now, and honestly, he was getting tired of the same old routine. That's when his scanner started beeping like crazy. "What the hell?" Tay muttered, checking his instruments. There was something out there, drifting about 2 kilometers off his starboard side. His scanner said it was metal, but the readings were all wrong. Too small to be a proper ship, too big to be debris. Tay changed course to get a better look. Through his viewport, he could see it now. A sleek, silver vessel that looked nothing like human technology. It was beautiful in a weird way, all smooth curves and strange angles, but something was definitely wrong with it. No lights, no movement, just drifting dead in space. His radio crackled to life with a weak signal. The voice was soft, musical, but desperate. "Please, anyone, help me." Tay grabbed his headset. "This is Captain Lee Tay of the cargo vessel Iron Dream. Are you in distress?" "Yes, oh, thank the stars someone heard me." The voice was definitely female, with an accent he'd never heard before. "My ship is dying, life support failing. I have maybe 1 hour left." Tay was already moving, firing up his docking systems. "Hold tight, I'm coming to get you." It took him 20 minutes to carefully maneuver his bulky freighter close enough to dock with the alien ship. The airlocks were completely different from human designs, but somehow they managed to connect. When the seals engaged and pressure equalized, Tay opened the inner door. The being that stumbled into his ship took his breath away. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin had a pale blue tint that seemed to shimmer in the light, and there were what looked like tiny crystals growing along her cheekbones and forehead. Her hair was white as snow and seemed to move on its own, like it was underwater. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, and graceful even in her exhausted state. "Thank you," she gasped, falling to her knees. "I thought I was going to die out there." Tay helped her to his small medical bay. "What's your name? What happened to your ship?" "I am Yuna of the Ashanti people," she said, accepting a cup of water gratefully. "My ship. Someone sabotaged it. I barely escaped with my life." Tay had heard of the Ashanti before, but he'd never seen one. They were supposed to be incredibly advanced, but very rare. Most humans never encountered them. "Well, Yuna, you're safe now," Tay said, checking her over for injuries. She seemed okay, just exhausted and scared. "I'm heading to Lunar Base. I can drop you off there." Yuna's strange violet eyes went wide. "You would do that for a stranger?" "Of course," Tay shrugged. "Can't just leave you floating out here." But as he said it, he noticed something odd. Instead of looking relieved, Yuna looked even more worried. She stared at him like he'd just said something terrifying. "Is everything okay?" Tay asked. Yuna just shook her head slowly. "You have no idea what you've just done, do you, human?" The first day passed quietly enough. Tay gave Yuna his spare cabin and tried to make her comfortable. She was polite, even grateful, but something was clearly eating at her. Every time he brought her food or checked on her, she got this look on her face like she was in physical pain. On the second day, Tay couldn't take it anymore. "Okay, what's wrong?" he asked, finding her staring out the porthole at the stars. "You've been rescued, you're safe, but you look like someone just told you your dog died." Yuna turned to face him, and Tay was surprised to see tears in her violet eyes. "You don't understand. My people, the Ashanti, we have laws, sacred laws that go back thousands of years." "What kind of laws?" Tay sat down across from her in the small mess hall. "We never ever accept help without giving something back, never." Her voice was shaking. "When someone saves your life, you owe them everything. But I have nothing to give you, nothing at all." Tay blinked. "Wait, you're upset because you can't pay me back?" "Yuna, I don't want anything. I was just helping." That made it worse. Yuna actually flinched like he'd slapped her. "You can't just help. That's not how it works." "Says who?" Tay laughed, trying to lighten the mood. "Look, where I come from, we help people because it's the right thing to do. No payment needed. My grandmother used to say that what goes around comes around, you know?" But Yuna wasn't laughing. If anything, she looked horrified. "You don't understand," she whispered. "In Ashanti culture, being in debt to someone is the worst shame possible. It brings dishonor not just to me, but to my entire family line. My ancestors will weep in the afterlife because of what I've done." Tay scratched his head. "That seems pretty harsh. What if you literally can't pay someone back? Then you become their servant until the debt is cleared. Or—" She trailed off, looking embarrassed. "Or what? Or you offer yourself in marriage. If they accept, the debt is considered paid through the joining of families." Now it was Ty's turn to look uncomfortable. "Okay, well, good thing I'm not asking for any of that. I just wanted to help another living being. That's what humans do." "But that makes it worse." Yuna stood up abruptly, pacing the small room. "If you wanted something, anything, at least I could work toward paying you back. But you want nothing, which means I can never repay you, which means I'll carry this shame forever." Tay watched her pace, completely baffled. "This is insane. You're telling me that me being nice is somehow making your life worse?" "Yes," she cried. "You saved my life and now I'm trapped in eternal debt to someone who won't even tell me how to make it right. Because there's nothing to make right." Tay stood up too, getting frustrated. "I saw someone in trouble and I helped. End of story. No debt, no shame, no problem." Yuna stopped pacing and stared at him with those alien eyes. "How can your people survive with such thinking? How do you maintain order? How do you know who owes what to whom?" On the third morning, Tay found Yuna in the cargo hold, sitting among the mining equipment with her knees pulled up to her chest. She'd been avoiding him since their argument, and frankly he was getting tired of walking on eggshells around her. "All right, enough," he said, sitting down on a crate across from her. "We'll be at Luna Base in 6 hours, and I'm not dropping you off while you're still miserable. Talk to me." Yuna looked up at him with those strange violet eyes. "You really want to know why I was out there? Why my ship was sabotaged?" "Yeah, I do." She took a deep breath. "I was running away from my wedding." Tay raised an eyebrow. "Okay, that's not what I expected. Bad groom. The worst." Yuna's voice turned bitter. "Lord Keon of House Vex. He's powerful, wealthy, and absolutely cruel. My father arranged the marriage to strengthen our family's political position. I've met Keon 3 times, and each time—" She shuddered. "What did he do? He hurt his servants just to show me what would happen if I disobeyed him. He talked about how he would break me after we were married. He said Ashanti women were too independent and needed firm guidance." Yuna's hands clenched into fists. "I couldn't go through with it, so I stole a ship and ran." Tay felt his stomach twist with anger. "And he sabotaged your ship?" "He must have planted something before. I left. The ship was fine for 2 days, then everything started failing at once." She looked at him with something like wonder. "If you hadn't found me, I would have died out there. Keon would have gotten what he wanted. I'd be gone, and he could blame my death on my own foolishness for running away." "Well, you're safe now," Tay said firmly, "and you're not going back to him." Yuna's expression suddenly changed. She looked nervous again, but different this time. Not ashamed, more like she was about to say something that would change everything. "Tay, there's something else you need to know. About our laws. More cultural stuff?" He sighed. "Look, I told you I don't care about debts or—" "When an Ashanti woman is saved from death by an unmarried male, especially when she was fleeing an arranged marriage, the law is very specific." Yuna's voice was barely above a whisper. "By rescuing me, you've claimed the right to be my mate. The previous arrangement is void." Tay's brain seemed to short-circuit. "I'm sorry. What?" "You've claimed me, Tay. Under Ashanti law, I'm now yours to marry if you choose." "But I didn't claim anything. I just helped you." "I know." And then Yuna did something that surprised him completely. She smiled. It was the first real smile he'd seen from her since the rescue. "That's what makes this so perfect." "Perfect?" "Yuna, I don't understand any of this." She stood up and moved closer to him, her crystalline features catching the light. "Don't you see? You saved me from a monster, and you did it without wanting anything in return. You've been kind to me, respectful, gentle. In 3 days, you've shown me more consideration than Keon showed me in 3 meetings. So you're okay with this whole claiming thing?" "More than okay." Her cheeks took on a deeper blue tint. Was she blushing? "I've been watching you, Tay. The way you work, the way you treat your ship, The way you treated me when I was nothing but trouble. You're a good man. Lunar Base was buzzing with its usual activity when the Iron Dream docked at Bay 7. Tay had been coming here for years. It was just another routine stop for refueling and cargo transfers. He knew most of the dock workers, grabbed drinks at Murphy's bar, and nobody paid much attention to one more human cargo pilot. Today was different. The moment Tay and Yuna stepped off his ship, conversations stopped. Alien heads turned. Even the normally chatty Zentari dock supervisor went quiet, his four eyes blinking in surprise. "Is that really an Ashanti?" someone whispered in broken English. Tay glanced at Yuna, who had straightened up and was walking with a regal bearing he hadn't seen before. On his ship, she'd seemed vulnerable, almost fragile. Here, surrounded by other aliens, she looked like royalty. They made it about 50 feet before a small crowd had gathered. Word was spreading fast through the station's communication networks. Tay could see aliens pulling out their personal devices, taking pictures, sending messages. "Yuna," he said quietly, "maybe we should find somewhere private to talk about this whole mate thing before—" "There is nothing to discuss privately," Yuna said, her voice carrying clearly through the docking bay. "I, Yuna, of House Seren, III, daughter of the High Council, formally declare Captain Li Tay of Earth as my chosen mate under the ancient laws of my people." The crowd went dead silent. Then all hell broke loose. Tay watched in horror as aliens started pulling out recording devices, chattering excitedly in dozens of languages. A blue-skinned Vorthan merchant dropped his cargo container. Two Milari traders started arguing loudly about whether this was even legal. "Yuna, what did you just do?" Tay hissed. "I did what needed to be done," she replied calmly. "There can be no doubt about our status now." A tall, insect-like Thren approached them, his translator device crackling. "Forgive interruption, but did female just claim human as mate? Ashanti female?" "Yes," Yuna replied, before Tay could stop. Her Thren's antennae twitched rapidly, which Tay knew meant extreme surprise. But Ashanti never mate outside species, never in recorded history. This is unprecedented. More aliens were gathering now. Tay recognized species from across the galaxy. Beings who normally barely acknowledged humans existed. Now they were all staring at him like he'd grown a second head. An elderly Corvani stepped forward, his scales shifting to deep purple with respect. "Young human, do you understand what has happened? The Ashanti are among the oldest, most powerful races in the galaxy. They consider themselves superior to most species. For one to choose you, it means this human is either very special or very dangerous," finished a sharp voice from the crowd. Tay felt dozens of alien eyes studying him with new interest. These weren't the casual glances he usually got. These were calculating looks, like they were trying to figure out what made him worthy of an Ashanti princess. "I'm just a cargo pilot," he said weakly. A ripple of laughter went through the crowd, but it wasn't mocking. It was nervous laughter, like they didn't quite believe him. The Corvani elder nodded slowly. "Perhaps. But you are a cargo pilot who impressed an Ashanti enough for her to claim you publicly. That makes you someone we should know." Within an hour, Tay's comm device was flooded with messages, job offers from alien corporations, invitations to diplomatic functions. 3 different species ambassadors wanted to meet with him. Someone was offering him a mansion on Proxima Colony, just for an exclusive interview. "This is insane," he told Yuna, as they sat in the station's VIP lounge, a place he'd never even seen before today. "This is politics," she replied. "You're no longer just Li Tay, cargo pilot. You're Li Tay, the human who won an Ashanti princess. That means something in this galaxy." 2 days later, Tay was starting to get used to the strange looks and whispered conversations that followed him around Lunar Base. He'd even begun to enjoy some of the perks, better docking assignments, free drinks at the cantina, and aliens actually listening when he talked instead of dismissing him as just another human. That all changed when the Dark Meridian docked at Bay 3 Tai, was having lunch with Yuna in the observation deck when the station's alert system chimed. "Attention! Ashanti diplomatic vessel requesting priority docking. All personnel stand by." Yuna. went pale, her crystalline features losing their usual shimmer. "No," she whispered. "He found me." "Who found you?" Before she could answer, the cantina's view screen flickered to life, showing the docking bay. A sleek black ship, unlike anything Tay had ever seen, was settling into position. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, all sharp angles, and dark metal that seemed to absorb light. "Lord Keon," Una said, her voice barely audible. The ship's ramp lowered, and out stepped a figure that made Tay's blood run cold. Lord Keon was tall, even for an Ashanti, with skin so pale it was almost white. But where Una's crystalline features were delicate and beautiful, his were sharp and cruel. The crystals on his face were black as obsidian, and his eyes were a cold silver that seemed to look right through everything. Behind him came 6 armed Ashanti warriors in dark armor, their weapons clearly visible. "Station Commander," Keon's voice echoed through the cantina speakers as he addressed the base's control room. "I am Lord Keon of House Vex. I have come to retrieve stolen property, a female of my house who was taken illegally by a human criminal." Tay stood up so fast his chair fell over. "Stolen property, criminal." "Stay calm," Una said, grabbing his arm. "He's trying to provoke you." The station commander, a nervous Corvani named Administrator Vex, appeared on screen. "Lord Keon, our records show that the female in question has formally declared a mate bond with Captain Lee Tay. Under galactic law, under Ashanti law, she belongs to me." Keon's voice turned deadly. "The human has interfered with a legal marriage contract. I demand satisfaction." Una closed her eyes. "He's invoking the challenge right. I was afraid of this." "What's the challenge right?" "If someone disputes a mate claim, they can demand a formal contest. Usually it's a fight to the death." Tay felt his stomach drop. A fight to the death? With him? On the screen, Keon was already walking toward the cantina, his warriors flanking him. Other aliens scattered out of his way like he was carrying a plague. "Human!" Keon's voice boomed as he entered the cantina. "Face me." Tay stood up, acutely aware that he was probably about to die. Keon was taller, stronger, and clearly trained. For combat. Tay's biggest fight had been a bar brawl 3 years ago, and he'd lost that one. "Lord Keon," Una said, standing as well. "I formally reject your claim. I have chosen my mate freely." Keon's silver eyes fixed on her with obvious contempt. "You were promised to me, little crystal. Your father's word was given." "My father's word was broken when you sabotaged my ship and tried to murder me." "Prove it," Keon snarled. Then he turned to Tay. "Human, I challenge you for the right to this female. Do you accept, or will you crawl away like the inferior creature you are?" The entire cantina had gone silent. Every alien present was watching, waiting to see what the human would. Tay looked at Una, then back at Keon. "I accept your challenge." Keon smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. "Excellent. We fight with blades, as is tradition, to the death." "Wait," Una said suddenly. "I invoke the mate's right of terms." Keon's smile faltered. "What?" "Ancient law," Una said, her voice growing stronger. "When a challenge is made for a mate, the chosen partner may set the terms of contest. It's older than the death combat tradition." Several aliens in the crowd murmured agreement. Even Keon's warriors looked uncertain. "Fine," Keon spat. "Choose your terms, human. It matters little. I will defeat you regardless." Tay's mind raced. He couldn't fight this guy with weapons. He'd be dead in seconds. But what could he do? Then it hit him. Una had mentioned her people were master engineers, and he'd spent 5 years fixing broken equipment in space. "Engineering contest," Tay said. "We both get broken equipment. First one to fix it and make it work wins." The crowd erupted in surprised chatter. Keon looked like someone had just told him the universe was actually purple. "You want to compete in repair work? That's my terms," Tay said. "Unless you're scared you can't fix a broken machine." Keon's face twisted with rage. "Very well, human. I will humiliate you, then kill you anyway." The engineering contest was set up in Lunar Base's main maintenance bay. Word had spread throughout the station, and aliens were crowding in from every sector to watch. Tay had never had so many eyes on him in his life, and most of them belonged to species that could probably squash him like a bug. Administrator Vex nervously explained the rules. Each contestant gets identical broken atmospheric processors. First to restore full function wins. Begin when ready. Tay looked at the machine in front of him, a mess of twisted metal, fried circuits, and components that looked like they'd been through a blender. It was the kind of equipment failure that would normally take him hours to fix, even with proper tools. Keon examined his machine with obvious disdain. "This is beneath me," he muttered, but Tay could see him cataloguing the damage with practiced eyes. The guy clearly knew his way around technology. "You can still surrender, human," Keon called out. "I might let you live if you crawl away now." "Thanks, but I'll pass," Tay replied, rolling up his sleeves. The contest began. Keon worked with fluid precision, his movements economical and exact. He had the right tool for every job, knew exactly which components to prioritize. Watching him work, Tay realized the Ashanti Lord wasn't just talk. He really was a skilled engineer. Tay, on the other hand, was improvising. He didn't have fancy tools or perfect technique. What he had was 5 years of fixing broken junk in the middle of space with whatever was handy. He used a dinner fork to bend a circuit board back into shape, jury-rigged a power coupling with spare wire, and bypassed 3 burned-out components entirely. "Primitive," Keon sneered, not looking up from his own work. Humans always resort to crude shortcuts. But as the minutes ticked by, something interesting happened. Keon's machine was being restored to perfect factory specifications, while Tay's was becoming something entirely different. Better in some ways. His improvised solutions were actually improving on the original design. Yuna watched from the crowd, and Tay could see her growing excitement. She whispered something to the Ashanti warrior standing next to her, who looked surprised and whispered, "Back, what's she saying?" Tay called out, still working. "She says you're not just fixing it," the warrior replied, sounding impressed despite himself. "You're making it better." That's when Tay had an idea. A crazy, dangerous idea that could either win him the contest or get him killed later. Instead of just fixing his machine, he started examining the broken components more carefully. These processors were standard equipment throughout the galaxy, including on Ashanti ships, and if Keon had sabotaged Yuna's ship— "Hey, Keon," Tay called out, holding up a burned circuit board. "You ever seen damage like this before?" Keon glanced over briefly. "Standard overload pattern. Happens when systems are pushed beyond capacity." "Really? Because I've seen this exact pattern before. On Yuna's ship." Tay held the board up higher so the crowd could see. "This isn't from overuse. This is from a specific type of sabotage device, a cascade inducer," the crowd murmured. Keon's hands paused in their work. "You're talking nonsense. Human." "Am I?" Tay pulled out his portable scanner and ran it over the board. The results appeared on the bay's main screen for everyone to see. Cascade inducers leave a specific energy signature. And look, here it is. The crowd's murmur became a roar. Several Ashanti in the audience were pointing at the screen, talking rapidly in their own language. But here's the interesting part. Tay continued, his confidence growing. Cascade inducers are illegal in most of the galaxy. They're assassination weapons disguised as technical failures. Only certain people have access to them. Keon had stopped working entirely now. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts." Tay connected his scanner to the station's database. Cascade inducers require a specific authorization code to manufacture or purchase, and according to galactic records, only 3 of these devices have been sold in the past year. The screen showed the purchase records. 2 devices went to legitimate demolition companies. The third, purchased by Lord Keon of House Vex 6 days ago. The crowd exploded. Ashanti warriors were shouting at their lord in their musical language. Other aliens were backing away from Keon, like he'd suddenly caught fire. "This proves nothing," Keon snarled, but his pale skin had gone even whiter. "Doesn't it?" Tay gestured to his half-repaired machine. "You know I could finish fixing this processor right now and probably win our little contest, but I think everyone here already knows who the real winner is." Yuna stepped forward from the crowd, her crystalline features blazing with anger. "You tried to murder me, your own intended bride. You have no proof." "We have the purchase records," Administrator Vex interrupted, his scales flushing red with anger. Lord Keon, you are under arrest for attempted murder and violation of galactic weapons treaties. Station security moved in, but they didn't need to. Keon's own warriors had stepped away from him, their expressions disgusted. In Ashanti culture, attempting to murder your bride-to-be was apparently the ultimate dishonor. The oldest Ashanti warrior present, a scarred veteran with silver crystals, spoke in heavily accented English. The challenge is void. Lord Keon has no honor to defend. Human Tay, you have proven your worth not through strength but through truth. The female is yours by right. As security led Keon away, he turned back to glare at Tay. This isn't over. Human. Yeah, it is, Tay replied calmly. And next time you want to impress a girl, maybe try flowers instead of murder. 3 days after Keon's arrest, Tay was finally starting to think the worst was over. He and Yuna had been staying in Lunar Base's diplomatic quarters. Apparently being the mate of an Ashanti princess came with some serious perks. They were planning to leave for Earth in a few days so Yuna could see where humans actually lived. That's when the Star of Siren arrived. This wasn't like Keon's dark, threatening ship. The Star of Siren was pure white, elegant and massive, easily 3 times the size of any vessel Tay had ever seen. It moved through space like a graceful whale, completely silent despite its enormous bulk. Oh no, Yuna whispered, watching from their quarters viewport. They're here. Who's here? My family. Tay felt his stomach drop. Your family. How much? Family are we talking about? Well, there's my father, Lord Minho. He's the head of our house and sits on the High Council. My mother, Lady Hannah. My 2 older brothers, June and Wu. Probably a few cousins, maybe some family advisors. Yuna counted on her fingers. Oh, and definitely my grandmother, Elder Suk. She's intense. Define intense. She once made a Vorthan ambassador cry just by looking at him. The ship docked with barely a whisper. Tay watched through the viewport as an actual red carpet was rolled out, something he'd never seen at Lunar Base before. Administrator Vex himself was waiting at the airlock, along with what looked like every important official on the station. They're treating your family like royalty, Tay observed. We basically are royalty, Yuna said quietly. Tay, I need to warn you about something. My family, they're going to test you. Test me how? Every way they can think of. They'll want to see if you're worthy of me, if you can handle Ashanti politics, if you're strong enough to protect me. They're going to push you to your limits. Tay straightened his best shirt, which still looked pretty shabby compared to Ashanti fashion. Well, I survived, Keon. How much worse can it be? Yuna gave him a look that suggested it could be much, much worse. The family delegation that arrived at their quarters an hour later was intimidating in a completely different way than Keon had been. Where Keon was cruel and sharp, these Ashanti radiated quiet power and ancient dignity. Lord Minho was tall and broad-shouldered, with silver crystals that marked his age and status. His eyes were the same violet as Yuna's, but harder, more calculating. Lady Hannah was elegant and beautiful, but Tay could see steel beneath her graceful exterior. The 2 brothers looked like they could bench press a shuttle, and Elder Suk was tiny, ancient, and absolutely terrifying. Her crystals had turned pure white with age, and her eyes seemed to see straight through to Tay's soul. So, Lord Minho said, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed, you are the human who thinks he can marry my daughter. Actually, sir, your daughter chose me, Tay replied respectfully. I'm just honored she did. The family exchanged glances. Apparently that was the right answer. Tell me, human. Elder Suk spoke for the first time, her voice like ancient wind through crystals. Why do you think you deserve her? I don't, Tay said honestly. Yuna is brilliant, brave, and beautiful. She could have anyone in the galaxy. But she chose me, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that choice. Lady Hannah smiled slightly. Interesting answer. What are your intentions? Brother June demanded. What do you want from our family? Nothing, Tay said. I want Yuna to be happy, that's it. Nothing, Brother Wu scoffed. Not our technology, our political connections, our wealth. I didn't even know you had those things until a few days ago. Lord Minho stepped closer, studying Tai like a specimen under a microscope. You exposed Keon's sabotage. That showed intelligence and courage, but it also showed you're willing to make powerful enemies to protect my daughter. Are you prepared for the consequences of that? Sir, with respect, I was prepared for the consequences the moment I decided not to let Yuna die in space. The room went quiet. Elder Suk made a sound that might have been approval. Walk with me, Lord Minho said finally. They left the others behind and walked through Lunar Base's observation corridors. Lord Minho was quiet for a long time, just watching the stars through the transparent aluminum windows. Do you know what our family does, human? Yuna mentioned you were engineers. We are the galaxy's foremost terraforming specialists. We can take dead worlds and make them bloom with life. We've created 17 garden worlds in the past century alone. Minho turned to look at Tai. Our technology is worth more than some star systems. Wars have been fought over less. Tai began to understand why Yuna's hand in marriage was such a big deal. By accepting my daughter, you become part of our house, part of our legacy. Are you ready for that responsibility? Tai thought about Yuna's smile, her laugh, the way she looked at the stars with wonder. Yes, sir, I am. Lord Minho studied him for another long moment, then nodded slowly. Then welcome to the family, son. The news spread across the galaxy faster than a supernova. Within hours of Lord Minho's approval, every major news network was broadcasting the same incredible story. Human cargo pilot marries Ashanti princess. First interspecies union in recorded history. Tai watched the coverage from his quarters, feeling increasingly overwhelmed. His picture was being shown on alien networks he'd never heard of, in languages he couldn't pronounce. Some reports called him a diplomatic genius. Others suggested he was part of some elaborate human conspiracy. This is insane, he told Yuna, gesturing at the screen where a Zentari news anchor was discussing the human threat with obvious concern. I'm just a guy who flies cargo ships. Not anymore, Yuna replied, curled up next to him on the couch. Now you're a symbol. A symbol of what? Change, progress, the fact that the galaxy's old rules might not apply anymore. On screen, the news switched to footage from the Galactic Council chambers on Centauri Prime. Representatives from dozens of species were engaged in heated debate. The translator struggled to keep up with the rapid-fire arguments. The Ashanti have always considered themselves superior, a Corvani delegate was saying. If they're willing to accept humans as equals through marriage, what does that say about humanity's true capabilities? Her Vothan representative stood up, his blue skin flushed with agitation. Perhaps we've underestimated this species. Humans have been in space for less than a century, yet they've already spread to dozens of systems. They're adaptable, resourceful, and apparently now they have Ashanti backing. This could shift the balance of power, warned a Milari senator. Ashanti technology combined with human aggression could threaten established territories. Tai turned off the screen in disgust. Human aggression? I rescued someone from dying in space. And that act of kindness just changed galactic politics. Forever, Lord Minho said, entering the room with Lady Hana and Elder Suk, whether you intended it or not. Over the next few days, the implications became clear. Earth's government was suddenly receiving diplomatic overtures from species that had barely acknowledged humanity existed. Trade offers, technology exchanges, alliance proposals, all because one human had married into the right family. But it wasn't just positive attention. 3 different species filed formal complaints with the Galactic Council, claiming that the Ashanti-Human Alliance violated territorial agreements that were thousands of years old. The hegemony of Keth, a militaristic empire that had been expanding toward human space, suddenly announced a strategic pause in their expansion plans. They're scared, Yuna explained as they walked through Lunar Base's market district. For the first time in centuries, there's a new player in galactic politics that they can't predict or control. The market itself had changed dramatically. Alien merchants who used to ignore human customers were now actively seeking them out, offering deals and partnerships. A Thren trader approached Tai directly, offering him exclusive rights to sell their crystal technology in human space. Just because you're married to the princess, the trader explained through his translator. Very good business opportunity, yes? It was the same everywhere they went. Aliens treated Tay with a mixture of respect, curiosity, and wariness that he'd never experienced before. Some wanted to be his friend. Others clearly saw him as a threat to be watched carefully. The real shock came when they visited Earth's embassy on Lunar Base. Ambassador Park, a stern woman who'd barely spoken to Tay in 5 years of cargo runs, now treated him like visiting royalty. "Captain Lee," she said, using his rank for the first time ever, "I've been instructed by Earth Central Command to offer you any assistance you might need. Your marriage has opened doors we've been trying to unlock for decades." "What kind of doors?" "Technology transfers, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts. The Ashanti have been willing to share advanced terraforming techniques with our colonial development program. In exchange, they want access to human manufacturing methods and our unique problem-solving approaches." Tai looked at Yuna, who smiled. "You showed them that humans don't think like other species. You solved problems in ways they never considered. That makes you valuable allies." "But it also makes you unpredictable," Ambassador Park continued, her expression growing serious. "Some species see that as an opportunity, others see it as a threat. You need to understand your personal choices now affect billions of people." That night, Tay stood at the viewport in their quarters, looking out at the stars. He could see ships from a dozen different species docked at Lunar Base, their crews probably all talking about the human who'd married an Ashanti princess. "Having second thoughts?" Yuna asked, joining him at the window. "No," Tay said firmly. "I love you and I'd make the same choice again. But I never thought helping someone would cause this much trouble for everyone else." "For you didn't cause trouble," Yuna corrected him. "You started a revolution, and sometimes the galaxy needs a good revolution." Outside, the stars seemed to twinkle with new possibilities and new dangers that none of them could fully predict yet. 6 months later, Tay stood on the observation deck of the terraforming station New Eden, watching something impossible happen below. The planet Kepler 442c had been dead rock for millions of years. No atmosphere, no water, no life. Just another barren world in humanity's expanding territory. But now, as Tay watched through the reinforced viewport, vast machines were pumping engineered bacteria into the soil, while atmospheric processes filled the sky with clouds for the first time in geological ages. "Phase 1 complete," Yuna announced from her control station, her fingers dancing over holographic displays that would have looked like magic to Tay a year ago. "Bacterial seeding successful across 70% of the northern continent. Weather systems are stabilizing," added Dr. Kim, the human scientist leading their joint research team. "We should see the first rainfall within the week." Tay shook his head in amazement. "I still can't believe this is real. 6 months ago, I was hauling spare parts between mining stations. Now I'm helping create worlds." "You were always helping create worlds," Yuna said with a smile, stepping away from her controls. "You just didn't know it yet." The terraforming project had become something neither human nor Ashanti science could have achieved alone. Yuna's people provided the advanced technology, machines that could restructure planetary atmospheres and seed life at the molecular level. But it was human ingenuity that solved the problems the machines couldn't handle. When the atmospheric processes kept failing in the planet's magnetic storms, it was human engineer Riley Chen who figured out how to shield them using salvaged solar panels and mining equipment. When the bacterial cultures wouldn't take hold in the alien soil, human biologist Dr. Santos suggested mixing them with earthworms, a solution so simple it had never occurred to the Ashanti. "Incoming. Transmission from the monitoring station," Dr. Kim announced. "The Galactic Council observers want another progress report." Tay grimaced. The Council had insisted on sending neutral observers to monitor the terraforming project, representatives from a dozen different species who were clearly more interested in spying than observing. They filed daily reports about every innovation, every breakthrough, every creative solution the human Ashanti team developed. "Put them through," Yuna said. The main screen flickered to life, showing a conference room full of alien faces. Tay recognized most of them by now. The nervous Corvani scientist, the suspicious Vorthan military attaché, the calculating Milari trade representative. "Progress report, please," said Commander Vex, a stern Zentari who led the observation. Team, Day 183, Una began formally. Atmospheric composition has reached 68% of target parameters. Bacterial colonies are thriving beyond projected growth rates. We estimate full atmospheric conversion in 18 months, instead of the originally projected 36. A ripple of surprise went through the alien observers. How is this possible? Asked the Corvani scientist. Your initial calculations were already optimistic. Human modifications to our standard procedures, Una explained. They've developed several techniques we hadn't considered. What kind of techniques? The Vorthan leaned forward, clearly interested. Tay stepped into view of the camera. Nothing complicated. We just asked ourselves what would happen if we stopped doing things the way they'd always been done. The silence from the observation team was telling. Most alien species had been using the same technologies and methods for thousands of years. The idea of constantly changing and improving seemed to make them deeply uncomfortable. For example, Dr. Kim chimed in, standard terraforming protocol calls for atmospheric conversion before introducing plant life. But we realized that certain Earth plants actually help speed up the conversion process, so we're doing both simultaneously. This is highly irregular, muttered the Milari representative. But it works, Tay said simply. And it's faster, cheaper, and more effective than the old way. After the transmission ended, Una pulled up the global monitoring display. Across the planet's surface, green dots were appearing, each one representing a successful colony of engineered organisms. In 6 more months, this dead world would have breathable air and fertile soil. In a year, the first human colonists would arrive to build the first cities. You know what the really crazy part is? Ty said, wrapping his arms around his wife. All of this started because I couldn't just fly past someone who needed help. The galaxy is still trying to figure out what that means, Una replied, leaning back against him. 3 more species have approached the Council about forming alliances with humanity. The Thren want to hire human engineers for their construction projects. Even the hegemony of Keth has sent diplomatic feelers, because they're scared of what else we might do. Because they're realizing that humans don't think like anyone else. You solve problems by ignoring the rules that everyone else considers sacred. That makes you either the most valuable allies in the galaxy or the most dangerous enemies. As they watched, the first artificial rain began to fall on the northern continent. It was just water and dissolved nutrients, but to Tay, it looked like liquid hope falling from a sky that had been empty for millennia. What do you think comes next? He asked. Una smiled, her crystalline features reflecting the lights of their newborn world. With humans involved. Probably something no one saw coming. Below them, the impossible continued to happen. One impossible, raindrop at a time. Tay felt like the universe had just flipped upside down. Una, you don't have to decide anything now, she said quickly. But I want you to know, if you did want to marry me, I wouldn't fight it. Actually, I'd be honored. That night. Tay could hear Una crying through the thin walls of the ship.